right now it's, the team is myself, Jim Cowley out in Ivans, WSNJ, and Brett offered to, get in there, so we should be having some fun with this. North America QSO party this Saturday from noon to midnight. So I hope to see you there, and you can give me a call or give me an email if you can't get a hold of me, or if you don't get a hold of me tonight here. So that's it from here.
Okay, thanks, Rick. I will say tonight we have excused our treasurer and our vice president. They're training for a bike race, so we will not see them tonight. But we do have our, our quartermaster, Brett Pruitt. You got any Aries announcements?
Very few. I'm the interim treasurer tonight. I'm taking over for Colby. So if you owe some dues or something, you got any donations, come see me over here, and I'll handle that for him. And then as far as Aries goes, we had a ton of fun on Saturday. The county had a portable repeater. They didn't have any idea what frequency it operated on, what the offset was, PL tone or anything. So we ripped it apart, figured that out for them, gave them a parts list because it had a dead battery. The battery charger was not balloon, so on and so forth. So that was a ton of fun. And then my other team kind of rebuilt our go box. We got a new computer, new laptop. So we chucked the old laptop, put the new laptop in, got the new charging system in for it. So that was a ton of fun. And Dennis, Jerry, and Mike went in and installed a new computer in the radio room. So it's a ton of fun, and I was extremely impressed. We worked like a well-oiled machine. So next month is going to be a field exercise. September the 9th, I think, 13th.
By the way, Rachel's got some event calendars over there. So get one of those and then pencil in or write in on the calendars there, information.
September 10th will be our next meeting. It'll be a field exercise, so we won't meet at the EOC. We'll be out in the field. We'll meet back at the EOC for the after action. And I'll get emails out as to the what's going to be in the field exercise.
Yeah, we made an executive decision. I did. The Thursday before the marathon, there will not be a net.
Okay.
Aries net.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's because we have a meeting.
Yeah, we have a pre-meeting.
Marathon meeting.
So, and then September 10th, Lynn is wanting opportunities for guys to check out the radios before the marathon. So on September 10th, during the Aries field exercise, if you want to go out to your assigned station and check into the EOC, go out, check into the EOC when net control calls for check-ins. If September the 10th doesn't work for you, we're going to do another radio check on the 24th. Okay? So if you need to, your equipment might work great at home. Take it out into the field and make sure it works. Go ahead.
This is whether you're part of Aries or not. If you're signed up to do something with the marathon, come on out that day. Go to your aid station as close as you can figure. For those that have been out there for years, they kind of pretty well know where their spot is. But aid stations are numbered by where it is in the race mile wise. And so, so if you're completely clueless, I guess you can drive all the way to Central to where the garbage station is. That's mile 0. And follow your odometer back down the course till you get to your number of your aid station, because their aid stations are known by race miles, and not the little miles on posts on the side of the road. They count up and where you're going down, so.
Yeah. Aid station 26 is the finish line.
Yeah, you can 6.2. 0.2, yeah.
So yeah, you don't have to be a member areas. If you wanna check in and make sure the radio works, if you're participating in the marathon, the 10th and the 24th is your opportunity to do so.
What time?
The 10th, we will start the Aries exercise at 9:30 a.m. And we'll be out there for most of an hour, so you've got until about 10:30 to get out there and check in. On the 24th, I'll be in the EOC at 10 a.m. and I'll hang out for an hour, hour and a half. Anybody that wants to check in can do so. Okay?
And, you'll be known by your race mile.
Aid station 14, aid station 16.
So we'll have to use your call sign at the end of the transmission, but when you call in, you say, this is aid station 15, this is mobile 2, and, wherever you're assigned, that's your tactical, and that will apply for that, this day too.
Any questions on that? Okay, that's basically what I have for Aries.
Thank you, Brad, appreciate that. I got an email, from a, organization that wants to give us training in weather spotting. You know, we don't have much weather around here, but when we do, it's pretty severe, so, they were looking at maybe October or November to do a presentation here, so if there's anybody that wants to, be involved with that, be sure to be to those meetings because they'll make them pretty good. Okay, let's see, we kind of went back and forth on this, but I think we'll have, Rachel, go first. And she has a couple announcements, and then she's gonna do a short video for us on our special events station we had last month. So Rachel, go ahead.
Okay, so like you said, I've got a little calendar of events up next to the Rice Krispie treats. So after the meeting, make sure you grab one. I'm gonna remind you all about the activity survey. We haven't filled one out. If you would, that would be fantastic. Okay, Sunday night net, 8 o'clock. We have some new members, and I want to make sure everybody knew, 8 o'clock, check into that net. It's on, well, no, the direct lines are all.
It's on all
it's on the
Dixie
YouTube.
radio links.
On Saturday, September 17th, the Dixie Roundup Parade is happening. We are going to have a float in it, like we did for the 24th of July, with an antenna and a mobile station in the back. If you would like to be a part of the parade, that would be awesome. You can come and we'll find you a seat, or you can walk. Or, if you would like to attend the parade and bring your handheld and check in as we're going past, that would be awesome. Or, if you're at home during the parade and you would like to check in, that would be awesome. What we have is we have a table in the back of the truck and speakers set up so they can hear the check-in.
Both sides of the conversation.
Yeah, so it's pretty neat. We had a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, that's so awesome. So, lineup starts at 8:30. We don't have a number yet. They had a death in the family or something of people who are getting it ready. So they're a little backed up. But lineup is at 8:30. It starts at 9. On the 24th, we're I'm looking at you because we're gonna have the fall equinox clean out, swap meet, and barbecue. The location is kind of to be announced, but we'll let you know for sure at the next meeting because it's after that. At 9:30 is set up, 10 o'clock starts, there will be lunch, 2 o'clock is start cleanup, and then we're going to invite a bunch of the other clubs in southern Utah and northern Arizona. So, could be kind of fun.
This is on the 24th.
The 24th, yep. And that one is on this little sheet as well. And then just some things to keep on your radar is that our club Christmas party is on December 14th at Golden Corral, 6. January 25th and 26th, I think it's 25th and 26th, or 26th and 27th. That weekend is Winter Field Day. And then we are going to be putting together a filter building workshop, and we'll let you know when that's gonna be happening, but it's going to be at Rad's Range. We did talk about that. We do have a few new programs that we're rolling out with the activities. We're gonna have some Elmer workshops for noobs. That means, sorry, that's newbies. Realized that was a gamer term, a video gamer term. So for new people, we're thinking about doing it 15 minutes prior to the meeting, but that might change. So we'll let you know when those start. We're gonna have a POTA group, Parks on the Air group, that will meet on the 4th Saturday of each month, and there will be carpooling here at the Legion Hall, and if you happen to live in Hurricane, at the Linz, there, so that you guys, you can meet up and go out. The last thing I have before we watch our fun little presentation on the special event station is we'd like to start a service club within the club, where if anybody would like some help setting up antennas or radios, or if you have even just kind of mundane things that need to be done, like for instance, I am not tall enough at the top of my ladder to change a smoke detector. So we have a couple of taller people who can climb up the ladder and do that.
You must be under a certain age and fairly agile.
At least to do the ladder climbing. Anyway, so we would like to start one of those. I have a sign-up sheet for the POTA group and for the service, we're calling it the service band. Over there next to the activities theme. Anyway, yeah, it's over there. So we had a special event station that we did for the 24th of July, and we had a lot of interest, especially from groups, like other groups around Utah, about possibly even making this a statewide thing. So we pioneered that. Sorry, I'll stop now. Here we go. Somebody want to grab a mic? The theme of the parade was "We are all pioneers." Big shout out to Jim and his wife. They operated probably 10 hours and just knocked it out of the park. They were fantastic.
New type of contact, you know?
They contacted to the parade, so we counted.
I actually contacted him while I was standing up in the parade. most stations have.
Wow. That's a lot of money right there.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, he's got quite a collection. And he mentioned on his desk. There you go, Matt.
There you go, Matt. It's got beaver down.
One's for you.
Ba-dum-bum.
I know, I'm terrible. Awful puns.
Exponential.
I love his said, I'm not a cowboy, I just found the hat.
That's it.
Cool.
Okay, like Rachel says, this thing could expand to a statewide event, which would be really cool. So now we're gonna have our feature presentation. Lynn Kendrick had informed me he had some information on radios aboard the Hindenburg. So I'll let him introduce his video and take it from here.
I want to thank Don and his daughter. Got an award. My grandson and I were at the fox hunt. He's 12, and we decided we'd love to participate the next time if they call it a coyote hunt instead of a fox hunt. Anyway, this is going to be about the radios on the Hindenburg, and hopefully you can hear me in the back. Okay, I can't hear you, but I'm going to start with about a 2 or 3 minute video, and you have to be kind of quiet to listen because the speaker system didn't work.
It's starting to rain again. The rain has slacked up a little bit. They found smoke for the ship. We got slowly something up to do with them. The worst of the worst, get it started, get it started. It's fine, and it's lightning. It's lightning terrible. Oh my, get out of the way, please. It's sunny, working in a plane, and it's falling on a plane gas, and all the folks that we this is terrible. This is the one of the worst catastrophes in the world.
can tell me if there were any survivors.
I think there were.
There were. I was surprised, because boy, that's a pretty big explosion. Okay, so let me get the PowerPoint started. So this is the radios of the Hindenburg, but actually one of the more interesting things is the kind of antennas that they use. Can you hear me back there okay? Okay, so I did a lot of research in putting this together. Probably took me 3-4 hours, I don't know. Anyway, it's really an interesting story. And so what was the Hindenburg? It was a huge dirigible. It was filled with hydrogen, and from the 1930s, it crossed the Atlantic in 1937. So that's the time frame that we're talking about. And it blew up as it tried to land in New Jersey. Okay, so the question is, why do you think they used hydrogen rather than helium?
Lighter.
Lighter, okay.
Helium wasn't that available in
Yeah,
Germany
much.
at the time.
Much more abundant.
Glad you asked.
That went over here too. That went over here too.
Well, I was just,
Oh,
basically,
okay.
Rick said it was more abundant.
Yeah. By the way, the Goodyear blimps, we're all familiar with, started in 1917. I looked up a lot of information about the Goodyear blimps. There are 4 in service right now, but they initially used hydrogen that went to helium. So the main reason was the government, the US government, wouldn't give them helium, so they had to use hydrogen. And it is lighter. Okay, so they had 2 radios on the Hindenburg. This is a picture of the radio room. They made a movie about it and recreated where that was. It was interesting to me because with that you can see some of the superstructure of the Hindenburg. So it was right above the pilot's location, but it was located inside. Obviously not with hydrogen, no. So here's a picture of the radio and a couple of the operators. They had, the radio call sign was DEKA, D-E-K-K-A. They had 2 telefunken transmitters. One was a long wave, and the other was a short wave. Now, why do you suppose they had 2? In case one failed. Okay. That was a long way across the Atlantic.
I just figured they were a normal radio back.
Yeah.
Why one went too fast?
Okay, so, interesting, 1937, how powerful, this is a question, did
He
Maxine,
left, yeah, he was.
darn. So, anybody, how powerful do you think the radios were?
20 watts,
Pardon?
20 watts.
20?
100?
Both had 200 watts for CW. I was surprised, and 125 for voice. They operated mostly on the frequencies that you can see there, and power came from 2 65 horsepower diesel generators. They also powered electricity for the Hindenburg and for the kitchen. But those are pretty big generators to have on on a balloon.
Did those hang underneath the dirigible, or were they inside the envelope?
I don't know that. I wasn't there, but. So,
Close, but.
they had, if you think about it, and when I think about radios, I think of, like my 7100 has a receiver built in and a transmitter, but back then, they were typically separate. So it had two receivers, they had four-hole tubes with overlapping bands, but they could receive 10 different bands. Power for the receivers was by battery, but they could be charged during the flight. So that's kind of interesting. They had a backup plan, and the backup plan was more like what Don just said. They used an emergency radio connected to a bicycle. No doubt it was QRP. This isn't really what it looked like, but it gave you an idea of a bicycle with a generator hooked up not to a light bulb, but to some kind of a transmitter and receiver. So the antennas, they had a long wave transmitter, had a 120 meter, almost 400-foot trailing antenna. And one of the things that I found was interesting is when they had to tune that, which they would, they had an electric winch, so they could move it out or move it in, but they had this big wire hanging out behind the balloon. Shortwave, they had an 85-foot trailing antenna, but it was manually deployed. Now, one of the things that you might be wondering is how thick was the wire? And the answer to that is I have no idea. I would guess probably, I don't know, probably 14 gauge, or it's probably a pretty good sized wire.
How fast did they move? How many knots did they move? Anybody know?
I don't know, but I can tell you that the Goodyear blimps move at 73 miles an hour.
That fast?
Yeah.
Wow.
But they have better engines than blimps today. But it turns out they had a lot of blimps back in the 30s, and they were for submarine control and lookout. Did you have a question?
Google says 84 miles an hour.
Say again?
Google says 84 miles per hour the cruise speed.
Okay.
So if you're dragging a big horny antenna, it'd be at an angle and hanging straight down, right?
Right, because of the slipstream at that speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But these were amazing. The structure of the Hindenburg was amazing. Okay, so if you were going to fly up, another question?
So they used a long wave antenna when they just started, and a short wave when they were closer?
Say again?
They used a long wave when they were just starting out, and a short wave when they were closer?
I'll answer that question in just a minute, okay? This is kind of related to that. If you were going to fly across the Atlantic, how would you make sure that your radio works? Brett?
Contact somebody across the Atlantic.
Okay. Tested it before, right? So they tested it before leaving Germany, and I thought it was interesting. In Chatham, Massachusetts, they connected, and that's 4,375 miles away from Germany. But Chatham, Massachusetts is just about the furthest east that you can get. It's on Cape Cod, and it turns out it was a big radio station for naval and transportation. So I actually looked that up, and there's a pretty good history about Chatham, Massachusetts. It was an important radio contact point Here's a picture of where it is. I've been to Massachusetts a number of times. I've never been to Cape Cod, probably never will. Something else, when I talk about the antennas, they had 3 direction finders. So let's see, Tom, why do you suppose they had 3 direction finders on the Hindenburg?
I wonder where they were located, the big one at the end.
Well, in the next slide I have a picture of some of the loop antennas. But why would they have 3?
With the triangle.
Okay. One was devoted for when they were going to land. That makes sense. One was devoted for when they were in flight so they could double check where they were. And I can't remember what the other one was, but it was related to the same thing.
I thought it was because they were all men and nobody stopped to ask for directions.
Thanks. So one was for finding, all the other 2 were used during landing. But you can see the antennas there. But that was actually a pretty complicated thing to have the direction finders. But they did that just like we do in fox hunt. They do triangulation. It turns out that the direction finders were really important when they were flying out over the ocean. Okay, and the directions were fed to the control room. Okay, here's some interesting stuff. At least I thought it was interesting. The Empire State Building used to be a place where blimps could land. It was only used once in 1939, and the whole idea was abandoned after the Hindenburg crash. But man, it's a pretty interesting little picture over there.
I got a comment on that. I was doing research at the Empire State Building, said that picture was photoshopped in the day. It was fake, it was never created for, it was a myth that passed through the years. That never attached itself to the Empire State Building.
Well, my first thought is when you see it coming into the Empire State Building is, what kind of a ladder did they use to get off?
Yeah.
They had to jump a little more.
They had 14 station phone system, and this is what it looked like. It also went into the control room, or into the radio room. Here's an idea, or here's a picture of a radio telegram. I guess if you had some bucks, you could say, hey, let my wife know I'm going to be late for dinner, or something like that. But I have no idea how that happened to survive, but it.
You had on that last slide before this one, you had names of 2 of the survivors.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was probably one of the survivors, or I'm not sure. 2 dogs. Again, this is kind of interesting. There were 2 dogs on board, and they were kept in a restricted freight area. And the one guy would go in and walk his dog, and I don't know what happened to the other dog. I assume it got fed as well. That guy survived the crash. The dogs did not. That's kind of sad. There's a book about the Hindenburgs, and it's really hard to find, as you can imagine. I phoned the local library, and they said, huh?
There's a source called Archive, and it's called Internet Archive. You get on there, and they got books from all over. So you might try there, search on that one, and they have books to borrow, whenever you sign up, and they'll give it to you for an hour. You can't read the book in an hour, right? But they'll let you have it for an hour, and then check it out the next day for an hour or whatever. But they do have some books similar, that could be close to this one, so you might be able to find it.
Okay.
I've
Well,
got one here on the site called Thrift Books. They want $4.29 for it. It is available. It is available out
I
there.
bet you that's a real neat story.
well, while I'm talking about what I thought was interesting stuff is, like I say, the first Goodyear blimp was launched in 1917. And Goodyear initially made their blimps for the Navy. The Navy would patrol the coast and go out and look for submarines and things like that. 1917, if you think about it, that was World War I. 4 Goodyear blimps have crashed over the years. There have been some survivors, but 4 have crashed. And when we think of the Goodyear blimp, we think of football and parades, the Rose Bowl parade. When would you guess that Goodyear started doing those sporting events? You'll be wrong, but give it a shot.
1950s.
Say again?
50s.
They initially came up with the idea in 1952, but it didn't really happen until 1955 or 1956. And Goodyear initially built their blimps in just outside of Akron, Ohio. And for quite a while, however, they had the blimp headquarters in Texas. Now, I have no idea why they went to Texas, because that's not close to the Navy or anything else, is when I think of it. But they, like I say, they now have 4 different blimps stationed throughout the United States. So would you guess that they have blimps outside of the United States, Goodyear? The answer is yes, they do. I don't know how many. I didn't find that number, but there are blimps in other places in the world. Okay, so do you have any questions about the Hindenburg that I can't answer?
You had a room there for a radio room, you had a kitchen there, and a control room. How big was the people going to be in that room?
In the pictures that I've seen, there are 2 operators, and they had more than 2 operators, because they had to have shifts. I don't know how long it took to get across the Atlantic, but obviously quite a while. And so I think they had 3 different crews or something like that.
97 people on board.
Yeah, it was a big blimp. By the way, the first Goodyear blimps were big, but they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. The blimps now are like 230,000 cubic feet of helium that they hold. And there are 2 different kinds of blimps, by the way. The ones like the Hindenburg, which have a structure, and then there's ones that are just a big airbag with a control underneath.
Gondola.
They're not as common. Yes?
Took 3 days. 3 days to cross. It took 3 days to cross.
3 days to cross.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Faster than the ships.
What's the antenna called? A ZEP antenna?
Yes, it was.
Seriously, yes, it was.
Seriously, that's where we get our ZEP antenna, because, in fact, the J-pole is called a ZEP. And, double ZEP, of course, when you have two long ones and two short ones, I guess, isn't it? Right? So, yeah, what they do is like on your J-pole, you have a big, radiator, and then you have like a driven element that's shorter, and then that smacks to your coils. Well, what they did is it was upside down and dragged out of the airship. Like Lynn said, you know, nearly football field long, you know, because it wasn't gonna hit the ground, they were way up in the air, so. And I imagine a pretty good, reception. I don't know how much noise the Hindenburg generated as far as QRM, but, I would say it's pretty quiet.
Yeah. So can you imagine on the Hindenburg, they were getting ready to tune, and they set that winch, and they had a rig expert that they could. I have no idea how they tuned it, but probably SWR, a bridge of some kind. Anyway.
Probably just a light bulb or something they tune for maximum smoke. That's how they do
They
it.
have to plug sparks
Yeah.
and all sorts of things like that. They didn't really determine why it blew up.
Okay, well, that's all I have.
Well, thanks, Larry. Anybody else have anything they want to share with the group before we break for hang time?
Well, I've got somebody just, coming down here that is, he wants to become a ham, so, he should be walking in any minute. He said he was late and,
Oh, so he's still coming? Oh,
He's still coming, so, if you could make him feel welcome, we would appreciate it.
We will.
Yes.
So, oh, go ahead.
Amelia Earhart had one of those antennas you crank out.
Yeah.
And they had a problem with the antenna, and when they left Australia or New Zealand, wherever the last stop was, the antenna had failed or broke or something. They didn't have the use of that radio. So they took off without that radio working, or without that antenna.
Moral of the story, don't leave without your radio.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, one of the reasons why I'm here tonight is I'm trying to get an antenna attached to my flagpole. And you know,
Would you like my solution for the internet?
Yeah, that's great. The plants on the antenna to the flagpole.
The flagpole,
Every time a zipline came in, they had to secure it for landing. And they had a special knot that they tied
yeah,
to secure its landing.
there's a bunch of folks here
It's
that
called
are,
Zeppelin.
love to ever move people,
So they were tied like this.
so
This
that's
was
the purpose of hang times, to get ready for this weather.
very
And, Colby
What
made,
happens is it comes out, the
Rice
reason they
Krispie
tied it
squares
was
again, so
because
everybody,
it was so
enjoy.
easy
Thanks for coming tonight.
to untie.
See me about the NFUV.
So it looks like this.
If you want to help out this weekend.
It's a Zeppelin knot.
Thanks, Lou.
It's very strong, but very easy to undo because you've got these two ends apart. So it's easy to release the Zeppelin even under stress. You can just untie it.